for a second and just like say hi to all your friends?
Hi.
Guys.
I have any friends on this call?
Yeah, it's like, whoa, look at all these people. I miss that. So that's why I was like, I have to do that. It's so weird just coming into silence. But yeah, I'll just quickly kind of give you a brief little, look into my journey, and then really I just want to answer questions from you guys and kind of cater this to your guys' needs and wants. So I started playing water polo when I was 8. I did all different sports. My dad's from Puerto Rico. He played water polo there. My older siblings all played. And they're the ones that really motivated me through this time. I'm sure all of you guys who have siblings can relate to that. I'm the youngest, so they would constantly be pushing me and challenging me, and that's where goal setting really came into my life. And then I made my first national team, or whatever it's called, Futures Cadet, when I was 11. And from there, I really got that taste of representing the USA and loving it. And from then on, I knew that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to wear the USA suit. I wanted to listen to the flag and play for the flag, and continue to get better and better. And I was really lucky. I had a great path of, a good coach, good older siblings. I had great role models. My parents taught me a lot of great values to help me kind of follow my dream and pursue my dream and not be afraid of dreaming of being an Olympian, which to 11-year-old might be so crazy, but to me it felt, real. And, I had the dream of going to Stanford as well. Academics has always been really, really important to me. One of my favorite quotes is strive to be amongst the best. And that's kind of how I try to live my life, whether it comes to school, water polo, friends, right? Just always trying to surround myself with people who are more or less better than me, that I can learn from, grow from, and enjoy being around, and kind of have those same value systems. And then I got to watch my sister in 2008 win a silver medal, and it was heartbreaking, but also incredible. I had never been to an Olympic Games as a fan, and after watching that, I knew I wanted to be on that team, and I knew I needed to be in the water with my sister next time I played. And I ended up joining the national team that next summer. Those girls were my idols. I had their autographs. Like, it was such an odd experience. And then I've been on the team since 2009. Got to bring home gold in 2012 and in 2016 as very different teams, different identities as teams, but still just as special. And now still playing. So I'm still passionate about it, but of course have my ups and downs. And now in quarantine in my house. This is like not my backyard at all. It's like a hallway behind my apartment, but it makes me feel like I'm outside. So yeah, that's a very quick blurb, but want to kind of dive into some questions you guys have for me and how you guys are all doing during this time. And yeah. So
Awesome.
Jimmy, do you have questions, or do any of you guys have questions? If you want to unmute yourself and ask directly. If not, I think Jimmy might have some.
Yeah, we had some pre-existing questions people asked, but so
Cool.
Jimmy, you want to take us through a couple of those, and then certainly if anyone wants to raise their hand and jump out that way, that would be great. Virtually raise their hand, I guess, or shout it out, whatever's easiest.
So Anna from Nutria Aquatics is curious to know, how are you personally training during this period of isolation?
I'm very creative during this time. I think it's, at first I struggled a bit of just trying to figure out what to do. And then, to be honest, I kind of tapped back into my younger self, who was probably around your age, when I didn't have, the teams that I have now to help train me. And I just had to get really creative at home and have fun with it. Just like when you guys were kids and you're playing with your siblings or your friends come over. And that's kind of how I've approached this situation, is thinking of it as more of a creative challenge, which I've really enjoyed. And something that's always been really important, like I was mentioning, is just goal setting and giving myself a new challenge every day, whether I fail at it miserably or I'm able to overcome it. I think just like having those challenges every day is so important. So for me, you know, a challenge has been doing things I usually never do. So I grew up doing land sports. I did basketball and soccer, but I swim mainly now and I don't have a pool. So I've been trying to get back into like running and biking as a way to get my cardio and heart rate up. And that is a great challenge because I'm sure as all of you can relate, we're used to water. So I've tried to create new challenges every day. Like how far can I run today? Can I run faster? Can I get a better form? Maybe get some sprints in there, or if I'm on a bike doing progression. So today I'm going to do a 45-minute bike, and that's like a big one for me, or an hour, whatever it may be. So I think if you can try to come up with ways to keep your cardio and heart rate up, that's really important, and do it in a challenging way. Like if you have a pool, amazing. Use it as much as possible because you should feel very grateful right now that you have a chlorinated pool in your backyard. And for those of you who don't, go do something new, do something challenging. That'll kind of keep that motivation in your head and give you something new to work toward, but you're still working that muscle, right, of excelling at a challenge, but also cardio and heart rate. And then a lot of ball work. I have a water polo ball here, so I'm sure if you guys have seen on 6-8 Sports, on the 6-8 Sports app, we have like a ton of ball drills you can do at home to develop whatever it may be. We've been kind of thinking of this time as, if you have a weakness, let's make it a strength. So if you've never had a very good shot or weren't very good with ball handling, get a ball out anytime you're watching TV and just play with it, right? It doesn't have to be crazy hard. Just when you're having a conversation, just start doing stuff with the ball, right? It can be super casual, or maybe your legs have never been very strong. So why not get on the bike and do like a hard leg set or do some more squats? So try to think of this as a time to challenge yourself in that way. And that's what I've been doing at home. Like that's pretty much what I'm doing today. So
Awesome. Thank you, Maggie. Mary from Northern Illinois Polo Club is curious to know, what's something you wish you'd been told early in your polo career?
To be honest, I was really lucky. This question always makes me feel really grateful because I was surrounded by such great people that to be honest, I was constantly getting told great advice. And so I think that would be one thing I would say to all of you is surround yourself with people who are going to help you grow. You know, maybe, and I feel like it's so hard because all of us, you know, are competitors. So you probably want to be the best. But if you're the best everywhere you go, or you're the one giving other people advice all the time, you're probably not learning as much. So sometimes it's great to be the worst on a team or to be the lowest on the totem pole, right? Because you're probably getting fed so much information that can be difficult at the time, but it's going to help you grow. And that's what I always did growing up. And that was one great advice I was told growing up was always play against people who are bigger, stronger, and better than you. And that's what I did. I always trained against older boys. I went to extra men's community college practices. I always played older in the women's divisions. So that was one great piece of advice I got. And I want to tell you guys that, like, always put yourself in positions where you're playing against people who are better than you, because that's how you're going to improve. And then I would just say to my younger self, I guess, to try to remember like all the fun activities you guys do as much as possible. Like I wish I had kept a journal when I was even younger. I keep a journal now, and I wish I had kept it when I was, you know, even in middle school or high school, so that I could remember not necessarily the water polo stuff, but all of the fun things that you guys do as teams. That's been really fun for me now to look back on. That's mainly what I write about in my journal. So I would say I wish I had been told to document that, you know, in writing a bit more, just those, you know, the car rides, the carpools, the funny jokes, stuff like that you can look back on, because the community you have and the relationships you have are so important.
Excellent. Thank you again. Looking towards Jack from West Suburban, water polo is curious to know what motivated you to keep playing as a kid.
A lot of things. I actually just posted this on Instagram after our talk the other day. I went back and like found Jack. Woo-hoo, where are you? I'm trying to wave at you. I am a super ambitious person, and like I said, one of my quotes is strive to be amongst the best. And I think that was motivating in itself. And that kind of came from my family. We always talked about representing our Steffens name to the best of our ability. And I think that was something, especially as a kid, was really motivating to me, because each day I saw it as an opportunity to grow and get better to represent my Steffens name as best as possible. So, right, let's see. Jack, is it Reef? Reef?
Yep.
Right. So for you, right, it might be like, how can I represent the Reef name to the best of my ability? Right. And like, when you think of it like that, is wow, every day I should be pushing myself. Every day I want to be the best Jack I can be, so that my Reef name is proud. Right. And I think that to me has really stuck with me with the Steffens name and that value of my family. So that I would say was number one. And then number two, I would say my dream. I think it's really important for, especially at your guys' age, to have a vision, have a dream, whether it's absurd to other people, doesn't matter, right? I think so many people shy away from greatness or the want of greatness, and you shouldn't ever be shy to be great. That's totally okay, right? So I think for me, I had a vision of being an Olympian, and I didn't want to just like be an Olympian. I wanted to be, significant. And that really helped me stay motivated. Like I just posted on my Instagram a bunch of quotes that when I was like 15, I wrote my favorite quotes, and even quotes I like made up myself, which is so ridiculous of me. And I put them on my bathroom mirror so that every morning when I had to go to like 5 a.m. swim practice or a 5 a.m. water polo practice, and I did not want to, and that was just the worst thing ever at the moment, I could look at those quotes and it was just a reminder of who I want to be, like where I want to be in next year or where I want to be in a week. And so even having those quotes up was really helpful. So I think having a vision and a dream would be probably the second way of motivation. And then third, just relying on your teammates. We're really lucky. We play a team sport. I could not do an individual sport. I would go stir crazy. So to me, it's always been the best to win as a team, because you get to share it with people that you love and respect and that you've worked really hard with. And so whenever you're lacking motivation or you're struggling, think of your teammates, because those are the people that are going to help you get through moments of doubt, or, when you don't want to do something, just think of your team and it'll really lift you to where you want to be. So those would be my three.
This next one's a really popular question.
Okay.
So it came from a lot of different people, but Marley from Law Polo is curious to know, what drills do you do or recommend to improve passing and shooting in and out of the water?
Okay. So passing in itself is by far probably the most, I would say, second most important thing in water polo. The first is legs to me, and those are two in the same. And I think if you have good legs and you're a good passer, you're going to be a good shooter and you're going to be able to see the game better, right? So the number one thing I would say in terms of drills and whatnot is do them as much as possible. I think a lot of times people just get excited to shoot because shooting's fun, which it is. But the more you can spend time passing, the better shooter you're going to be, right? So even if your end goal is to be a better shooter, the more passing you do, that's going to lead you there versus maybe more shooting. So that would be kind of my first thing. And then work on your legs. Like, it's not about your arm. Your arm definitely helps, right? And practicing as much like wrist control, how you hold the ball. Like, you guys can see my wrist flexibility is, I don't hold the ball like this, right? You want to have it as flat as a pizza box. That's like fundamentals you learn in 10 and under. But those are things you still have to learn at the highest level in practice. But the stronger legs you have, the more stable your base, the more you can do above water. So definitely focus on your leg strength, which for a lot of you, you probably don't want to do because it's awful. Like, working on your legs is really hard. but it'll make you a better passer. So a lot of vertical drills, even at the end of practice, can you challenge yourself when we get back to a pool? Can you challenge yourself and do like 2 laps, just hands on your elbow, right? Like do the extra thing that'll make your legs stronger. And then my third thing I would say is just, other than practice, is just working on your wrist. So a lot of times we like turn our wrist or we spin it too much. And I do this now to this day, and just focusing on your placement. And so trying to make an accurate, good pass instead of just throwing the ball. So when you focus on all 3 of those, I think it'll help you be a better passer. And drills, honestly, this sounds so silly, but like passing against a wall is a great drill to do, right? Just like repetition. I think that's so important. And then when you guys do get back in a pool, drills, do a lot more vertical leg drills before you pass. Get your legs warmed up. I always love a very simple passing. So one of my favorite drills, which is easily the simplest thing you all can do, is catch the ball and then rise up for 3 seconds and pass. Like, it's so simple, but it teaches you that when you pass, you should be at your highest level. It teaches you to be calm with the ball, teaches you to be stable. And like, you can make this skill and drill as hard as possible. You could have 2 hands out. You could hold it high for 5 seconds, right? Like, there's things you can mix up there. But those would be, I hope that helped. I hope that answered your question, but those would be my like drills or cues to think of.
That was some really great stuff. Thank you, Maggie.
Yeah.
Rachel from Moose Water Polo is curious to know, what is your favorite part of a water polo game?
I think I just saw Rachel. What is my favorite part of a water polo game? This question.
Yep.
I love, okay, this is like a lame answer, but like I love jumping in before a game starts. Like I'm usually the one on our team who like counts us down to jump in at the same time. And to me, eye contact is really important because it helps me feel connected with my teammates and to like get into a flow. So I love that feeling, like right before a game starts, just looking at all my teammates, getting eye contact, like getting a vibe between each person on an individual level, so that when I jump in, it's like, all right, it's game time. So that would be my favorite part personally. Is that your favorite part too? We're twins.
Becca from Nipsey, Northern Illinois Polo, is curious to know how she should keep up with learning new offense and defensive plays.
So I would say, especially in quarantine, I love how we like use that as a noun now. Especially right now. So one thing that you can do, which I've actually been doing because that's my job right now in terms of 6-8 Sports, which if you don't know, I have a company with Tony Azevedo, 6-8 Sports. We have an app, and we're based on the technology side, but right now to just help everybody, we've been putting out a ton of at-home videos and just stuff you guys can do at home. And one of the things that's super cool we've been doing is our platform, our app is based on scoring a game. So getting your own individual stats and being able to learn from that, right? So like after a game, you guys know those sheets you get at the desk. We've basically put that into the app as well. So you can track your goals, your assists, your steals, your blocks, etc. So one thing we've been doing is we've been posting games to watch, and we tell you guys a certain player to watch, and we pick those players. So to us, these are players you guys should be watching and learning from, right? We like basically give you a role model, and we have you guys open the app and track what they're doing. So did they shoot? Did they score? Did they get a steal? Did they get ejected? All of that is on our game scoring platform. So that would be probably my number one way for you to learn good like tactical and strategy skills, just watching, right? And we've set it up for you at 6-8. We've given you people to watch, which I think is super important in good games. So try to do that. And then second, just going off that, watch games, like watch people. I think that was something I am really happy I did growing up, is I had older siblings. So I got to watch a lot of water polo. And then I picked role models. So for example, I'd watch Brenda Villa, I'd watch Tony Azevedo, I'd watch their video. I'd go online, I'd type it in YouTube or whatever it was and watch them play. And so I think if you guys can do that, like watch our women's team, and even if it's just one quarter, pick one player to watch. You don't have to watch the whole game. Just pick one player and see how they play the game. Then rewatch that quarter and pick somebody else. So that would be my suggestion, because you can learn so much about defense and offense just by doing that.
Excellent. Coach Yvonne from Northern Illinois Polo Club is curious to know, what do you do to prepare mentally for games?
Yeah, so this one's a big one. So I hope all of you guys are like dialed in on this question. To me, preparation is so important. And the more you're prepared for something, the more confident you're going to feel in that moment that you need to be prepared. So when you guys have practice, right, or when you're going through a drill, or maybe you're doing a 6-on-5, don't think of it just as a 6-on-5 or this like stupid drill I have to do in a pool, right? Think of it as, okay, right, it's third quarter, our team is tied, and like I have to score, or our team has to score, or I have to get this block on this play we're working on. So that would be my biggest advice, is get athletes and you guys as athletes to mentally put yourself in game situations during practice. And that imagination is gonna take you from this level to this level, right? It's basically preparing you to be ready for high pressure situations, and it's putting yourself there mentally before it happens. So that would be definitely my biggest advice. And then, this seems silly now because I'm like, I don't know why we didn't do this on water polo, but I always visualize myself at night, like especially before games. I visualize what good could happen, what bad might happen. Like I visualize the nerves, and I myself get anxious. And so that really helps. Like I said, live that moment before it happens. But I remember as a swimmer growing up, we used to visualize like at practice, instead of getting in the pool for the first 10 minutes, we'd like lay down and close our eyes, and our swim coach would be like, hey, you're doing your warm up, you put your suit on, like you're getting on the blocks. And, maybe that's something you guys could integrate, into training, just even visualizing the 5 minutes before a game starts or something like that. So practice makes perfect, repetition of it, and just imagining yourself in a game situation before it happens. Visualizing that, I think, is the best prep.
Excellent. Switching gears to the Olympics, Coach Jeff from Stevenson High School is curious to know if you still plan on playing for the USA women's team in the 2021 Olympics, and if you also want to play in future Olympics as well.
In what?
In future Olympics after 2021.
Yeah, so definitely I'm focused on 2021 now. This is my dream and this is my team, and there's nothing that would take me from my team. So that's really important to me. And then from there, I'll kind of see how it goes. Our whole lives changed a bit for this year. So just taking it day by day, because clearly if you think too far in the future, you never know what's going to happen, as all of us have learned through, COVID, is just staying present is so important. So definitely playing as long as I'm healthy and make the team and everything. I definitely plan on being in 2021. And then after that, we'll see.
Excellent. I want to go ahead and open it up to everyone on the Zoom here. So if you have a question for Maggie, please go ahead and just virtually raise your hand, or physically raise your hand as well. And Maggie will point you out, say your name, and Coach Miguel or I will unmute you so you can ask away. It looks like Fernanda Castillo.
Yeah, you're going to have to do, there's so many people. So I'm like.
Yeah, I got your back. Fernanda, you are unmuted. Go ahead.
Hi.
Hi there.
I just wanted to know, like, when you were like in college and high school, how you managed like your water polo career while also trying to be on like top of your academics.
Yeah. That's a tough one. I honestly, when I think back, I'm like, how in the world did I do that? So you guys are all stars right now. Like what you are doing, you're going to look back on yourselves in 10 years and be like, how did I have the energy and capacity and time management to do all of that? So definitely this is probably going to be the hardest time of time management in your lives, because high school, are you guys all high school, I'm assuming? Yeah. High school is definitely, or maybe not all high school, but a lot of you guys are high school. That for me was the toughest, but like I said earlier, to me, I had those goals and visions, and that really helped me prioritize. So I think you can get lost in high school, especially with when you don't have those specific goals, because when you have things that keep you kind of on track, it helps you make decisions. So for example, this was probably my craziest day. I remember like my senior year when I was trying to train and make my first Olympic team. I would like wake up and go swim by myself at 5 a.m., then go to school from 8 to 3. And then after school, we'd have swim practice. Then I'd go to a men's water polo practice. Then I would go to like our club water polo practice and like somehow did homework in between. Thinking back, I'm like, I was crazy. But in the moment, it didn't seem very hard because my priorities were really in line. So, you know, when it came to practice, I was at practice. Like I was mentally there. And when I was doing my homework, I was mentally doing my homework. I wasn't doing my homework and like watching TV at the same time or on a phone call with somebody else. Technology was different back then, so that wasn't as simple. But try to be where you are during that moment, because it'll make that time a lot more valuable. Whereas like, especially right now with all the technology we have and the distractions, what can happen is you're like doing your homework for 30 minutes and then you're like texting a friend and you're like watching TV and you're thinking about water polo practice. And then in that 30 minutes, you probably did none of your homework. Right. So that was something to me that was really important was, you know, I had a picture of Stanford and I had a picture of the Olympic rings on my bathroom mirror. And that really helped me keep my priorities straight and handle time management a lot better. And then I had a really good support system. So my friends who I'm still really close with today and my teammates, they knew I had these really ambitious goals. And so they were super supportive in that. Like if I couldn't hang out with them or like couldn't do certain things, they weren't frustrated by it or like trying to pull me away. They were like, oh, cool. Yeah, you're trying to be an Olympian. Like you should go work out, you know? So try to surround yourself with people who support your dreams and who can challenge you as well. So like all of my friends in high school were really smart, like way smarter than me. And so they were all taking like way harder classes than me. And that pushed me as well to, you know, focus on my academics. And, you know, for me, like I'm a nerd. I'm such a nerd. So like I wanted to get A's in all my classes, you know, like very nerdy in that sense. Like I was in leadership. I was super involved in my school. But I was those things helped me prioritize where I wanted to go. Does that make sense? Like that'll help you deal with all that chaos in your life if you know, have those things to help you make a decision. Like, do I do this or do this, right? When I'm doing my homework, I'm doing it. Like when I'm hanging out with my friends, I'm hanging out with my friends. So I think that's really important.
Awesome.
It's like Reed. Reed has a question, followed by Mac. Go ahead, Reed.
Hey, I'm just wondering, since you are on quarantine, what are you doing to stay in contact with your team and keep like team cohesiveness?
Yeah. I would say there's a few ways to handle it because we're a bit older. And so I think, you know, handling a lot of things on an individual level is really important right now. Just getting your life kind of together in a sense. But we've been meeting on Zoom calls just like this a few times a week and just doing check-ins. And then we're doing like sports psych meetings as well. And then we're just giving out like optional things to do. I think that's really important right now as well. Something that's so cool and amazing about water polo is the community and your teammates and having fun. That's what water polo is about. So instead of having all these meetings that are intense and draining, also having fun meetings where like today we just cooked together at lunch. whether some of them cooked, like some girls just brought leftovers from the night before and some of us cooked lunch. Or like tonight we're going to do like trivia, and other days like we send each other workouts, or send each other notes, like handwritten notes. That's a great thing to do right now. You probably have the time, and everybody loves getting a handwritten note. So trying to come up with creative ways to just share experiences, I think is really important. So for sure, still doing team Zoom meetings, talking water polo, or just checking in with one another, with our coaches and staff. And then also just doing things as a team to share experiences, so that when we look back on this, it's kind of like we did it together. Although we were all in our own separate houses. So I would try to consider it that way from a coach's perspective and also as an athlete's perspective, and kind of have some fun with it. Like, I don't have TikTok, but like do a TikTok and like challenge your teammate to do it, or like send, like I said, send them a note, or do a cooking class together, like other things as well, to just remind each other that you guys are a team and friends, and to enjoy it. But then also have like, your team sessions as well.
Okay, we have a question from Max.
Hi, Maggie. Do you have any
Hi, I'm trying to
nutrition
find
tips
you.
over here?
Like you say over here, and it's like,
Right.
You got to scroll through.
okay, hi.
My question is, do you have any nutrition tips for our athletes? Any habits they can start?
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, and now I feel like I'm just like plugging in 6-8 Sports, but this is what I'm thinking about all the time. We just had our USOC, so the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee nutritionists, do a series on 6-8 Sports of nutrition. And I was so excited because this is so important to me. So on the app as well, we have, I think, like 6 videos on there from the top nutritionists in the US giving out tips and tricks. So definitely watch that. That would be like my number one advice. And that's free too. So like get on there, watch it. And then second, just be aware of what you're doing. So the great thing about water polo is you burn so many calories. Like usually water polo players, like we tend to eat a good amount because we burn so much. Like you guys work out so hard, but now you're not doing that as much. So I think it's really important to just be self-aware of what you're doing and how to complement it. So if you're only doing 1/3 of what you used to do, maybe you think about kind of dialing, the quantity back to 1/3 or so, right? And just listen to your body, listen to what it needs. I think that's really important. And just a reminder of how important protein is going to be during this time, just retaining muscle, and making sure you're supplementing yourself. So after a workout, if any of you guys are lifting weights, like make sure you're getting some sort of protein in after you're pushing your muscles so that you're able to retain that strength, and hydrating like a ton. I feel like right now it's so easy to forget to hydrate, but that's why I always have my water bottle. Hydration is going to really help you during this time. So those would be probably my 3 big pieces of advice. Yeah. And cook. Like when you start cooking, you realize what you're eating. And it's crazy. Like I started cooking when I lived in Europe, and then I came back to the States and I was like, whoa, we eat so much butter in America. It's crazy. So like I only cook with olive oil because I learned cooking in Europe. So start cooking more, and that's really fun. And it also helps you be a bit more aware of what you're putting in your body.
Hey, Maggie, we have a question that we had. It was actually in our originally, but the gentleman's on here, Coach Rob, just started a new girls team down here in St. Louis. I'm going to ask him to ask a question he had for you. So, go ahead, Rob.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate that, Miguel. Yeah, we're starting a new club here in St. Louis, and it's specifically for girls, playing against other girls as opposed to, or not opposed to, but in addition to girls having the opportunity to play hybrid with boys.
Cool.
What have you seen in other zones and other regions of the country with all girls competition?
like the growth of it, or how it's.
Yeah, how it's structured, how it got started. What
Yeah.
are some of the things that you could advise us here to grow the girls game?
Yeah. So I would say one, like, great job in itself. I am obviously a huge advocate of girls programs and just spreading water polo. So awesome. Like, I'm really grateful for you that you've started that program. But one piece of advice I would say is, one, especially for girls, and I hope all you girls agree with me, I'm not sure, but to us, the team aspect is so important, like the team culture. To men of course as well, but I think there's, just who we are as girls and women, the relationships you have on teams and that feeling of like a sisterhood is really important. And so keeping that fun, because it's easy to get competitive in water polo, but I think just a reminder as a coach in a girls program, just creating as much like team cohesion and shared experiences outside of the water is really important. And that seems like it's not important to the question, but I really do think that helps excel women's programs, because then younger kids or their siblings see that environment and they want to now play water polo as well. And I think that's just such a special trait that our sport has, is that feeling of family and community, and especially on the girls' side. So really harnessing in on that.
Yep.
And
And
then
I coach girls swim too, so I know how that works. It's
yeah,
really
yeah,
important.
exactly. And then I would say mixed age groups. So, like I was saying, with in general to get better of like playing up or playing with boys teams. And I think it's really easy to get comfortable where you are, whether you're really good or whether you're really bad or whether you're right in between, whatever it may be. And so especially, with a girls program, and since it's all girls, I think be more open, I guess, to allowing people to mix age groups. So like allowing the 12 and unders to play up and like come to double practices, because that's going to help those girls learn how to be better leaders, and better followers, and get better in itself. And also it's going to help the older girls learn how to mentor. So I think that's a really great thing that I've noticed. We did that as well in my program, and I've noticed that a lot. Like I was just talking to Brenda Villa about this, is just like intermixing those age groups and even levels of play. And I think it does help, different attributes for them as players, like to learn that. So that would be my advice. And then just as much exposure as possible, like play games as much as possible. Like even if they're the worst team in the tournament or they're the best team in the tournament, just have them play as many games as possible.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Hannah Schultz had a question for you.
Hey Maggie, it's Maddie Schultz. Hannah's my older sister.
Oh, nice.
Sorry, Matt.
I was just wondering, like, I really look up to you with your size because you are on the smaller end, and I feel like a lot of us feel like that. And I want to know, like, how do you think your size has influenced, like, your game? And
Yeah,
if
for
you've ever
sure.
felt, like, limited.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny. Like I was saying earlier, I was really lucky that I had coaches and a family and a support system that didn't bring me down. They challenged me like crazy, but they didn't say like, you're too small to play. And I think that was really important for me because I never had that thought. And I always played up. So I was always smaller. Like I remember playing against these college men's players who could literally drown me with their fingers. But what was great about my size was, one, playing up, it taught me how to deal with people who are bigger than me and not being afraid of that. And so then once I joined the national team or played at the collegiate level, when I saw a woman from Holland who was like 4 times my size, I wasn't as afraid, right? So I think that's something that's really important, like expose yourself to bigger people just to start learning, like, okay, if somebody's 3 times my weight, but now we're in water, right? So that's an equalizer, and I am quicker. So figure out what is your strength, not being small, right? Not thinking of it in that way, but for example, for me personally, I have developed, I would say I'm a very quick and explosive player. I would say that's one of my identities, especially on the college level and international level, is I'm probably one of the most explosive players in the game. And that's because I have to be. I'm 5'8", and I've developed really strong legs so that if I lunge, like if I'm lunging next to Mackenzie Fisher, like her arm is just gonna get it, right? Like she's so long. And so in order to kind of equalize with her, I have to have stronger legs, right? So that I can lunge higher out of the water. Or to get to a ball quicker, I have to learn how to be more explosive with a breaststroke kick. Or maybe, I'm probably a better cutoff player than a lot of long people, because in order to get my advantage, I can't just beat them to the ball with my length. Like I have to cut them off. So a lot of times this has become my strength, was originally a weakness in terms of what the outside eye might have thought. So for you, Maddie, if you feel small in a game or your size, what about that size can be a strength of yours, right? So if you're a bit smaller, maybe you focus on being more of a quick player and have a stronger water polo IQ, right? Intelligence, doesn't matter how big you are, what you look like, or how small you are, that's here. So can you be the smartest player in the pool? Or can you be the quickest in the pool, right? Or for those of you who are bigger, maybe can you be the strongest person in the pool? So make what your body has given you a strength. And that's how I've taken it. That's, I definitely don't have long arms, right? Or a long body. So I built my legs and my mobility and my explosiveness. And then because I always played up, it helped me develop a water polo IQ, which doesn't matter, like your hair color, whatever, a water polo IQ, like that's, anybody can get that. So that would be my advice to you. Did that help?
Yeah. I also had another question, because I also look up to this aspect of your game. Sometimes I feel like water polo can be made into a very black and white game, and I don't think it is. And like every time you play, you show that it's not. And I want to know how you maintain like your swag on your game without feeding
Cool.
into like it being
Thanks.
black and white.
That's fun. I've never been called like I got swag. Cool. Yeah, I mean, you saw my face. Like water polo is the least black and white thing ever. I mean, there's certain things that are, right? If you're one-on-one and the goalie's on the left side, okay, yeah, you shoot to the right side. Like there's certain things in the game that are very black and white. But in terms of the game as a whole, like it is all gray area. And so to me, that's the most fun part about water polo. And that's why I still love it, is because I always think of water polo as like a constantly moving puzzle, right? So like you think you have the right piece, and then all of a sudden the puzzle switch and you're like, oh gosh, okay, now I got to switch it up. And so try to see water polo as more of solving a puzzle helps me stay, creative and swag. I like that. I'm like totally gonna use that, and like have a bit more of, being able to be resilient in the moment of switching things up. And also like how do I say this? When coaches, I think it's really good to have different coaches and also talk to your teammates, ask them what they see, right? So I'm a very vocal player. I always am talking in games. I like to direct traffic. But the reason I do that is because through my time as an athlete, I always talk water polo with my coaches or my teammates. So like I was really lucky. I had older siblings who played water polo. My dad played water polo. So growing up, it was like, my dad would ask me, why'd you make that pass? And I would say, because of this. And he's like, is that it? And so then I had to think like, actually I did it because of this, this, and this, right? And if you don't talk about it or you don't think about it, you might not notice all of those other things. Then I had like Brenda Villa as my captain for the 2012 team. And I would talk water polo with her all the time. And a lot of time it was me doing something wrong, right? But that was how I learned. And just sharing knowledge is really important. So in order to get away from that black and white, this was right, this is wrong, understand why things are happening. Like, why did she go on a drive, right? I feel like I could watch a video clip of a 10-second thing and talk about why Maddie Musselman went on a drive for 20 different reasons, right? And once you start to talk more with your teammates or with your coaches, I think it'll help you develop that in between and understanding the why more of the game. And watch film, you know, and you'll be like, oh, I could do that, but why did she do it? Don't just like copy it, or don't just agree to something, just agree to it maybe and be like, oh, why? Right? And I think that's such a fun thing. Like, I'm a nerd, so that's like another problem to be solved, but think of the why a bit more when you guys are playing.
Thank you.
Thanks
We
so
have
much.
got three more questions for you. We have one from Katrina.
Cool. Hi, Katrina, wherever you are.
Okay, hi. So what kind of things do you do like during games and after games? Like, so if you have like a really stressful game, like what do you do to cope with that and how do you stay calm?
Yeah, after the game, you mean?
Like during and before.
During, okay. Yeah, I think there's a lot of things. One, like I talked about earlier, just preparation helps you deal with that. So the more prepared you feel, the more that if you're having a bad game or you're really stressed, the more you're able to calm yourself down. So first thing is try to prepare yourself as much as possible, physically and mentally, even emotionally. Like get yourself nervous a week before and then chill out, right? And so that would be my main thing. And then 2, practice that in practice, because resilience is very much so a muscle and you have to practice it. Like it's not just going to come, right? Same thing as like a bicep or a leg strength. Like you're not just going to grow a big muscle out of nowhere. Like you have to constantly work it. So think of that resilience in practice or even in school or with friends. Like there's so many ways to develop that resilience. So that when you are stressed or maybe you're overthinking something, that'll be a bit more natural. And then in terms of afterwards, I would just say, remember it's a game and, you know, everybody makes mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. And obviously that's a total bummer. Like none of us want to mess up, but that's life. But what's important is, okay, can I learn from that and adapt? So especially after a game, I think it's really good to actually replay it in your mind. Don't go crazy about it. Don't replay a mistake and be like, I'm the worst, replay. I'm the worst, replay. I'm the worst. Like that's not going to make anybody better. Instead, like replay it in your head and be like, okay, I maybe was the worst right there, but I can be better. Like, what can I do better? Maybe I could have put my legs this way, or maybe if I had my hand out, I would have been ejected, right? So you can replay things in your head, and instead of going on a downward spiral, just play it through. Like I was talking to Maddie about, like solve the problem and then let it go. Like your mind will remember that, and replay it in your head and then just let it go and remember it's a game and you have tomorrow to fix it. So like you'll find me a lot if I mess up in a game or I didn't like something I did, usually the next day at practice, I'm doing it again in practice. Like I'm reliving it. I asked my teammate, hey, can you throw me a high pass? Like I didn't have my legs when I caught and shot it. Right. So just like redo it. And then you'll feel more confident, but remember to let it go as well. Replay it, learn from it, and move on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Hilda has a question.
So it's like a game. I'm like trying to find you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are.
All right. Can you guys hear me? I don't know if you can.
Yeah.
Okay. So like clearly like so like earlier you were talking about how typically for like girls teams we like it's better for us to bond a lot more.
Right.
And like so clearly you've been playing for a long time and traveling all around. So like what would you recommend? Because like I started ODP this year for the first time, and it's like it is a really good experience. And then we were gonna go to nationals, but you know, like the corona,
COVID, quarantine, life happens. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like I just want to know, like, what do you do, like, as a leader or, like, you know, someone who travels with a lot of people, like, what do you do to bond, especially because, like ODP stuff like this is, like, or, like, club teams, nobody like lots of people don't go to like the same high school, and so like you want
Right.
to like bond with other people who really can't. So like what do you do when you guys are like you know, out of state in a hotel, like because it's like the only time you have like to actually like live with each other? I don't know if you kind of get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
Like,
no, for sure.
team bond.
I would say, and I kind of said this the other day as well, is I think a really important thing as a leader and just as a teammate is knowing that everybody is different. No one is the same, and try to understand what is important to that person and trying to find that, you know, mutual ground. So like, I don't know, whether maybe somebody on your team like really loves scary movies, right? And like you kind of like scary movies, but maybe that's a great way for you guys to connect. Like, hey, do you guys want to watch a scary movie tonight, right? It seems so simple, but it's learning what is important to other people. Or like maybe to somebody else, like they hate scary movies and they just want to do their homework, but like you have homework to do too. So like maybe you could do your homework with them, right? And that's the same thing in the pool. Like some people like to have fun and giggle the whole time, and some people are like, I want to just like play water polo, right? So everybody's different, and how can you as a teammate find that mutual ground with everybody on an individual level and then try to understand them, like understand who they are and gain that mutual respect. And a lot of the times that comes with like really silly little things that you do, you know, maybe it's like, I remember when we would always do like pranks and stuff as on ODP. Like we loved doing that, even like to our coaches, sorry coaches, but like we loved doing that. And that was something that was just a shared experience that we could all laugh and bond over. And like some people felt really uncomfortable with that. So then we like wouldn't do it as much, right? Or we'd like do something that they liked to do more. And so I think just trying to find that individual connection with people in the smallest of ways. Like maybe you guys have nothing in common other than you both like labradoodles. And so you know, that's like your one thing. And then that'll help build your relationship more and more. So just remember everybody's different, and just try to find things that you can do, you know, even as coaches, like you're constantly trying to figure out what motivates your athletes, right? But every athlete is different. And so you kind of have to treat each athlete a bit different in that sense as well. So that's what I would say. Try to create shared experiences with things that you guys have in common, and make sure you give a little, right? So if you don't like scary movies, but you like them like a little bit, like go for it. Try it with that person, right? You know, like get on their level a bit. Those were such like lame examples, but that's all I can do.
No, thank you. It's like a follow-up question. It's like very similar to it, but like obviously with like being like the youngest on like the team, that was like my experience for my freshman year, because like I made like the varsity team, which is like a junior senior dominated team, and like two
Right.
sophomores, and like so it was like me and this other freshman, and so we kind of like bonded from there. But like what do you do, like I don't know, because clearly you were like an underclassman technically, you know, what would you do like if there's like a team conflict with like two people who are like, you know, like clearly older than you, and it's really affecting like the team plays and like how the team, you know, like.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing. As much as that's one thing about boys teams that I love, is that if they have a conflict, it's let's talk about it and get over it, or let's fight it out and let's get over it. And girls teams, it's a lot harder to do that. And there's no shot. That's the honest truth. And I think something to do to help with that, like I mentioned, is just having strong individual relationships as well as a team relationship. So the more respect that you've earned, the more that you're able to have those conversations, right? So if I'm a freshman and I've earned respect from my seniors by working hard, by, you know, listening, by learning, by, you know, giving it 100%, by, you know, just being a good teammate, I'm going to have a little bit more of, you know, an opportunity to speak to them, right? And I've earned that respect. And that's the same thing as upperclassmen as well. It's like, you need to be more open, you know, understand that it's a team and everybody on the team is important. And so my advice to that is just constantly try to earn your teammates' respect. That's so important, no matter if you're the oldest on the team or the youngest. and work on those individual relationships, because the stronger those are, the easier those conversations are to have.
And our last question comes from Kaylee.
Hi. So I had a different question, but Katrina asked it, so I had to come up with this one on the spot.
Love it.
What has been one of your favorite memories from water polo, like through all of your water polo?
Oh, I have so many. That's such a hard question. So I got to play with my sister at the 2012 Olympics, which, I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. Like, that has to be my number one. That's pretty insane. But I would say, honestly, especially thinking about this when you guys were mentioning just like club teams and ODP, growing up, like, I loved going on trips with my teams and on those long car drives and making, well, now you guys don't do this, but we would make like mixed CDs and, you know, like jam out in the cars. And I think that's something that goes unnoticed now, because I'm sure all of you guys have these and probably just listen. I'm sure there's got to be a lot of you who, when you're in a minivan or whatever, carpooling with your team, you just have your headphones in. I challenge you guys to take those out and enjoy that car ride with your teammates. Or like if you're in a hotel, like instead of watching Netflix and by yourself or whatnot, like I challenge you guys to go hang out with your teammates. That by far is probably my favorite memory of water polo, is like we didn't have all that growing up. So we would, you know, come up with funny games, or even like I was telling Maddie, like we'd talk water polo or we'd talk about our lives and do pranks and just like share experiences like that. And I loved that. And I mean, I told this story the other day, but like we did that at the 2012 Olympics. We, Cammie Craig, who's our center or was our center, we got this big box of sandals and in the Olympic Village, and we hid her inside this like huge box, and on the box it said take one sandal. And we were on the same floor, so it was the men's water polo team and the women's water polo team at the Olympics, like the most high stress situation ever. And me and Betsy Armstrong would like cover Cammie Craig up, and then anytime anybody came out of the elevator, they'd like go in to reach for a sandal, and Cammie Craig would like pop out and scare them. And it was so funny, and it just made everybody laugh or cry because they were so scared. But that's one of my favorite memories of the Olympic Games. Like, that was something that just happened in our hallway with my teammates, and we were having fun. So I would definitely say, you know, there's winning golds and being on the podium with my sister and being a captain of 2016. Like, those are like immeasurable. Those are amazing. But then there's also the just fun moments you have with your teammates, and especially growing up, like at this age, it's so fun. So that would be my advice.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Well, Maggie, thank you again so much for taking the time to hang out with us today. It was an absolute blast. Throughout that process, I've been getting messages from people saying, well, this is so cool, this is awesome, I'm getting so many notes. So thank you for the inspiration, for the motivation, for the knowledge. We had an absolute blast. So thank you again.
Me too. Thanks, guys. This is awesome.
And go Team USA.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, everybody. Bye, Maggie.
Bye, you guys. Thanks.
Bye-bye. Thanks.